YouTube, heir of end times here, and what the corn crap's going on. It is time to continue the Archaon campaign. We're gonna start things off. I'm gonna acknowledge a couple of the top comments from the last video, just so that we can kind of have your input in here. So Shy Richardson says, I feel like a Marauder Chieftain should be resurrected for his bravery by the Chaos Gods to serve one of the Chaos Lords. And that's actually a pretty interesting point. I think that we will keep them in mind. He should be around here. Yeah, Fellman Ingerson. You guys help me remember the name. When we recruit Sigvald's army, we'll make an exalted hero in the army named Fellman Ingerson, and that will kind of have represented how this Norskin earned a title as an exalted hero in the Warriors of Chaos. So I think that'll be kind of a cool way to handle that. So good comment there. Let's see here. Or actually, so this one was one of the top comments. Doesn't really have any suggestions for the campaign, I don't think. Oh yeah, it does. But it says, this is Matt Fontwell. He says, good lord, actually imagine a Nurgle turd, because I opened the last video saying Nurgle's pestilent crap. He says, anyway, if you're gonna go all pretty with Sigvald, then I highly suggest you have a Chaos Sorcerer Lord with all of the damned units. Maybe name him Sirtha Ek in honor of the chariot riding legend. Or we could have Fellman Ingerson. Does Ingerson belong as an exalted hero in Sigvald's army, or should he be the Chaos Sorcerer Lord with this army of freakish mutations? And it seemed like people were pretty okay with the idea of Sigvald kind of having the army of freaks following him around too. There was a few people who suggested that he wouldn't even let them get near him. I get it, but I think that it helps uphold his vanity if we say that Sigvald was going to have his own pretty army, and then all of the turds kind of follow in his wake because they're too ugly. In any case, that's some of the top comments. Thank you all for commenting. Please continue to do so. I read them all. I love it. Appreciate the kind words that people have, and then also appreciate the feedback that I'm getting and the participation that you all throw into this. That's definitely makes this a lot more fun for all of us. Make them hard to hit. How can you hit Sextus anyway? That seems like something that's not even possible. Desmond here. Continue the siege. And then let's just move up Archaon. Should be pretty simple, straightforward auto-resolve here. Yeah, not worth our time, though it did way more damage than it should have. I guess if I walked my Dragon Ogres and stood them in front of their guns, that kind of damage might be possible, but CA please. Here we go. Decisive victory. We've gained favor for the Chaos Gods. Let's hit... Ooh, got a Hellfire Sword here. That is a pretty nice pickup here early in the game. And Kholek could use just such a weapon. You're limited to equipping no more than 3 items that provide an ability. Really? 3 items. I don't have 3 items that provide an ability. I have 1 item that provides 3 abilities. What a ripoff! I demand justice. CA, please. Fine, I'll give it to Sextus. Since they won't let me give it to Kholek. Alright. Good enough for now. We're just gonna have to deal with it. Archaon can encamp. And we can rebuild, or we can build this Chaos Rift here and recruit Skullex the Great. He's a Chaos Dragon who I was going to place in Kholek's army to give him a little more flexibility. It'd be an all Dragon Ogre army, but I think an army of Dragon Ogres, that it's just gonna have to work. Alright, Bersonling, a character, doing his job. A loyal servant. A loyal servant. Alright folks, there's one more comment that I feel like needs to be read on the campaign because it was really good. So Josh Martini responded to my call for people to come up with some of the story behind Fellman Ingerson and his heroic deeds in the last episode. So here you go. Fellman Ingerson saw the cowardly southern army arrayed before him. Such was the rage within him, and knowing that his master was near, he charged headlong into the ranks of Midland pikemen, seeking to carve red ruin and glorify himself in the eyes of the Chaos Gods. Blood spattering everywhere from both him and his enemies, the Norskin was driven into a blood frenzy, slaying hundreds before he himself was taken down from behind by a cowardly milk-drinking southerner. He lay in blood and gore as his body began to slowly fail him, listening to the screams as the champions of chaos began their bloody work. As the darkness enveloped him, the brave northern lord looked up to see the great horned helm of the Ever-Chosen staring deep within him. In the darkness he prepared himself to be taken in by his gods as his just reward for the glorious worship he performed in slaughtering the southerners before his death. But such is the way of the Chaos Gods, that their motives and purposes are all but unpredictable in the darkness. A rasping voice filled with steel and rage screamed from the abyss, "Your purpose is not yet fulfilled." Suddenly the world was filled with light and pain as the Norskin lord awoke, and twisting dark energies surrounded him, filling his wounds as he was suddenly filled with unimaginable pain as his skin thickened and his muscles regrew to deformed into monstrous mutations. Only one thought filled the mind of the Norskin lord: kill, maim, burn. As the warp energies settled, gone was the weak and maimed Norskin lord Fellman Ingerson, and in his place was the raised Chaos Lord of Khorne, Fellman the Slaughterer, who screamed into the night, "Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne." So he says, but actually Fellman Ingerson needs to be reborn into a Chaos Lord dedicated to Khorne for his bloodthirsty rush into the Midland line. What do you all think? Josh Martini, that was awesome, man. That was awesome. I felt like that needed to be shared. Thank you. That's amazing. I loved it. Tell me what you all think. I like his idea. Are you kidding me? I walk all the way to Altdorf, and it's filled full of vampire scum. Am I even going to get to fight Karl Franz? Does the Empire still exist? Maybe not. That's going to be a sad, sad day indeed. The last campaign I played with Archaon, when I arrived, Franz was still very much alive and well. So I'm very disappointed, honestly. But I don't know what else I can do about it at the moment. Just go ahead and end our turn.
Vampires, grave scum. I have little interest in your petty power games. What is it you want?
Indeed. What do these vampire scum have to do talking to me? Tell you what, I have an offer for you, vampire scum. Here's an offer. You become a vassal, or you die. How about that? So there's some hope that we might get to face Karl Franz. I see one of his puppets here, Gunther Hertzzeller. So I'm going to cut my way through the undead Altdorf and find my way to the remnants of the Empire. So war is upon the vampires, and it's not going to favor them. Picked up a Helm of Discord. And I think we picked up... Yeah, we picked up another Hellfire Sword. Let's go to Appius, the Chaos Roman here. Let's give him the Hellfire Sword. And I'm going to give him this Helm of Discord so that he can debuff enemy units around him, make him a nice support character for the infantry. Give him the Scroll of Power for now. It's nothing special, but better than nothing at this point. And with our Archaon skill point, we're going to open up the Flaming Sword of Ruin. So we're going to have to upgrade Kholek's skill points here as well. We've got this Dominating Presence line. We'd started on monstrous strength, which we should continue to fully upgrade the monsters that dwell in his army. Gonna camp with Archaon, and then we'll push south to see if we can find the remnants of the Empire, and then I'll deal with these undead scum. After the turn, we've been issued a quest for Kholek Suneater. In the quest for Star Crusher, we've been told to embed a Chaos Sorcerer into his army. It says, far to the north, deep in the roots of the mountains, Kholek Suneater has slept for generations, a Shaggoth of tremendous age. Firstborn of Krakenrock, father of the Dragon Ogres, he stirs, sensing his time as the bringer of darkness has come once more. Dire storm clouds gather around the peaks and crags where the mountain god is said to slumber, yet Suneater is not fully awake. Before a great chasm that splits the mountains like a gigantic axe wound, hundreds upon hundreds of Northmen kneel in the pelting hail and snow, chanting sonorously as tribute after screaming tribute is hurled bodily down into the cavernous lair. Over the chanting rises another voice, distorted to guttural inhumanity, as a sorcerer servant of the ruinous powers completes the summoning. Rocks explode as a cataclysmic lightning bolt lances down. Let's have Appius temporarily move over just to complete this mission. So this should complete it. I hate how it takes away all of your movement points to transfer one unit in the army. It's honestly a bit ridiculous. Emperor Karl Franz and a flagellant spam is here. We had best kill him quickly because it looks like his empire is crumbling around him. So Archaon will deal with what's left of the pitiful emperor. Some important action took place over the turn, and that was that the pitiful von Karsteins attempted to single out Kholek and his smaller forces while Archaon moved south, and they have at least temporarily split the forces of Archaon, and we're suffering from vampiric attrition, at least at the moment. So we need to fight our way back out of this. Bretonnia appears to likely be at the beck and call, so I have Lewin and Karl Franz, and if indeed they are military allies, we could kick off a pretty tremendous battle. Let's take a look at the diplomacy.
I am the blood of Gilles.
They are military allies, so we could start a tremendous fight here, one in which I would like Kholek to be present. I'm going to swing Kholek around, see if we can get the two armies together. I'm going to encamp with Archaon. If we are indeed attacked by Lewin and Karl, then we may have a worthy fight on our hands from a rather large force, and I would be okay with that, as I desire a challenge. But if they are weak and they seek to waste time and not engage, then they'll face the full force of Kholek and Archaon, and they'll regret having not attacked me when they had a better opportunity. Looks like Sextus, the Chaos Exalted Hero here, levels up again. We've given him a lot of abilities there in terms of assassination. We'll continue with this hard to hit, which will just make him more versatile in melee as he becomes very difficult. I know the Mirror Guard belongs to Sigvald, so I'm actually not going to recruit them at the moment because I want them to be available first thing. Or actually, we could just trade them to Sigvald's army. I'm going to temporarily bring in the Mirror Guard just to fill up the ranks for Archaon's army. They will be a somewhat pathetic unit compared to the rest of the units that I'm rocking right now, but they've got to get some experience, get busy polishing their shields before their lord gets here. Rather than Karl fight Archaon, he instead chooses to again think that he'd be smart by singling out Kholek. So we will make him pay for attempting this. His spam of flagellants, no doubt stinking of their own flatulence, Karl and a very pathetic Volkmar the Grim are going to be put down by Appius and Kholek. Gratuitous Kholek footage? The god of the mountain and thunder in front of a mountain with lightning and thunder? Yes, I did. And you're welcome. Is this not some of the coolest footage you've seen in this game? Holy crap, it looks so good. Anyway, welcome to the battlefield. Kholek and his dragon ogres are going to face a huge task here, as this is really not the type of army that they're intended to fight, and they really need to have an army that can help deal with infantry and has more unit models. I mean, if you take a look at the numbers here, we are 19 unit models versus 1,800. That is almost a 100-to-1 deficit that we're facing here in terms of now. I mean, don't get me wrong, Kholek is easily worth 100 flagellants. He has a little bit of splash damage and ward save, but his smaller Dragon Ogre Shaggoth cousins here and the regular Dragon Ogres are going to struggle mightily here, as the buffs on the flagellants from Karl and Volkmar are significant. They're packing 40 melee attack each and 40 weapon strength. They will land hits, and they don't break. And so this is going to be making it significantly difficult to deal with this many flagellants. My first goal, even though I know it won't break the leadership, is I wanted to charge all my Shaggoths in and attack Karl Franz and see if I could create a massive blob in order for Appius to take advantage of. And I was really hoping that the AI isn't going to do what it's doing, which is it's not just committing all of its troops here. You can see it's swinging some of its troops back around. And this is not good. That's not what I want. I need Appius to be free this whole battle, and I need maximum blobbage up here. And that was going to be my angle to try and do this, but the AI is actively attacking Appius, and this is very, very bad for me because I've not given him a warhorse because I was just saving for the Manticore, but I am deeply regretting the decision to have not given him a warhorse at this point because he is going to be massively vulnerable in this particular battle. You can see I'm already taking extensive damage on a couple of my Dragon Ogres. I am going to use the magic from Appius to deal as many casualties needed as I can, and that right there picked him up 100 kills very, very easily. And I am attempting to use a Pit of Shades right over here. Yeah, there it goes. It's going to get canceled, though, because of the combat that he's in, so I'm struggling mightily to get what I need out of Appius right now. He is getting attacked by some very overwhelming odds, and I'm bringing the Dragon Ogres to help support him because I can't let him get routed or killed. But it's at this point in the battle where I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to have what it takes to win this. Appius is going to pick up another 60 kills in this Pit of Shades. The Pendulum is actually probably the most effective against the Flagellants, and part of me wanted to just not even spend magic on the Pit of Shades and just use the Pendulum, but waiting in between the spell to use the Pendulum was very worrisome because if you look at my leadership, it's teetering on the edge there. I have one Dragon Ogre who's routed, has already come back. I get another opportunity for a pretty good Pendulum here, and Appius quickly clears 200, well, he's about 250 kills. So you can see the potential he has here, but there's two problems. One, I just can't summon enough magic, and two, the cooldown times and then leaving him completely surrounded by flagellants has become extremely bad situation for me. Look at that, Franz just got KO'd by Kholek in passing there, so Kholek gets his legendary Lord KO there, his first. And you're going to see Appius Rolus struggle mightily. I'm going to fast forward and kind of just show you all what happens. He continues to get attacked. I don't have a ton of magic for spells. I used the Helm of Discord, but then and the Arcane Conduit. He routs shortly thereafter. And I'm fighting desperately with the Dragon Ogres to keep him alive in this blob, but he's losing a lot of health as he tries to flee, and the AI is relentlessly attacking him because they do not want him back on the battlefield. This is very frustrating because it's exactly what they need to do, and if they weren't doing it, he would single-handedly be owning the Empire here. And so you can see that as Appius routs, the AI picks him up with an entire unit of flagellants that is looking to run him down and kill him, and they will. They're faster than he is at this point, so I'm going to have to dispatch this regrouped Dragon Ogre to stop this unit from attacking him and try and get Appius back, because without him, I don't have a prayer of defeating this blob of enemies. I'm going to fast forward to just kind of show you what happens, because this is just me smashing blobs of flagellants. You're not missing anything here other than the desperate ploy to keep Appius alive, which I'm using all of my Dragon Ogres, everything I can do to keep him alive, and the AI is just doggedly pursuing him. They seem to be quite aware that Sorcerer is the one thing that can flip this battle in my favor. I am just desperately trying to keep all these flagellants away from him, sending Kholek after him, and Kholek is going to be the only unit I'm left with here very shortly. Him and Appius, and the speed on Appius is something that I massively regret right now. I get another Pendulum and another Pit. It's not going to do a ton because the enemy's not as grouped up as they used to be, but I'm still going to pick up another almost 50 kills with Appius. And if we look at what's left here, I've got 4 unit models versus 387, so we're basically still outnumbered 100 to 1, and it's about to be more than that because this Dragon Ogre Shaggoth is about to drop, as is this one, and Appius is on his heels too, so Kholek is going to have to fight his way through about 350 Empire troops if he wants to win this battle. During the fast forward, I was able to single out Volkmar and kill him, but again, it's not going to matter in terms of leadership. The only reason why I tried to kill him was because I didn't want the power bar to sour against me and kill my leadership, and I knew that if we took Volkmar out, the power bar would favor me slightly better. So Appius routes again, and my ploys to keep him alive seem to be failing, and I was pretty certain at this point that he was going to die in this route. He's down to 286 hit points, but he just barely escapes once again. And I realized that the only way that I can win this battle is through massive cycle charging and kiting Appius away and using that against the computer since they want to win so badly. If I just sit still with Kholek, the combined attacks of all these flagellants will kill him. Look at this, the AI already locked on to Appius again. So I'm going to use Kholek as a kind of mobile defense platform here, and we're going to go flagellant bowling. He is going to be ripping these guys to shreds. So I'm able to use Kholek to slow the advance and keep Appius safe once again. Go ahead and fast forward and kind of show you. It's too late for me, but I realize, like, oh man, I really have to start cycle charging. So that's what I start to do. Hit and run, hit and run, hit and run. Don't give the AI any chances to land any hits because Kholek can so massively disrupt their unit. And that's what I'm going to use him here for, is just hit, run, hit, run. And you can see that the number of kills on Kholek is starting to be staggering. He's up to about 340, 350 at this point. He's on a tear, and Appius is at 305. So between the two of these guys, they've killed about a third of the enemy army. So just to give you an idea that those 2 units accounted for a third. Look at that. There was like three unit models left there, and Kholek just smashed all 3 of them at once. His splash damage is pretty potent. He gets a lot of splash damage done, and these little 1Z, 2Z units like this, I'm just picking them off one by one. I'm going to work my way through them. So every time Kholek rolls through, heads roll. I also realized that he's very tired, and I'm wishing that I would have taken the vigor loss reduction buff that you can get with Kholek. But again, now at this point, you can see I can keep Appius safe. He's got very little magic left, but I might be able to get off of Melkath's Mystifying Miasma or 2, which will really help me with these rather large units of flagellants. There's 78 out of 90 still in this one unit, and I'm just running shy of hit points. I managed to get Kholek back to very tired, but I can't seem to create enough distance to give him the rest time to get any less tired, or else they start to catch up to Appius. So I could probably get Kholek away, but there's no retreat from this battle, and I cannot let Appius get killed here. He's a main character, and I'm not going to allow it. So for a while I run, trying to charge up Winds of Magic, trying to get Kholek a little bit of vigor, but it's just not working. So I realized that I'm still going to have to turn and fight. So again, I'm just going to start picking at the enemy, and I know this won't be particularly cinematic. But if I sat here and showed this for the 30 minutes that it took to do this, you all would get quite bored. so that's why I'm fast forwarding. The whole point of this is to summarize the story, so I'm gonna skip ahead and kind of show you what the end game looked like here, and you'll see whether or not I was able to pull this off. After 37 straight minutes of pounding flagellants with a giant hammer, Kholek is nearing victory, and he's about 550 kills to show for it. So despite the mass of unbreakable flagellants, he is over here absolutely immolating his enemies with the force of this massive hammer. It is pretty gruesome, folks. I'll let you get a couple of these cinematics here to see that these units are going to wish that they had had breakable leadership, because their bodies are quite breakable to the mountain god. This is the last remnants of the 1800 flagellants who sought to defy the lords of the mountain. And Appius Rollus, despite the close call, roams free and alive in the background with 300 kills to his name, but too risky to bring him any closer to the battle. There are 0 winds of magic. Look at this one flagellant. Woo! Not much left. Not much left. Give me another one over here. Kholek is just picking them off. Bracing for a charge from a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. An electric one at that. Here it comes, folks. Let's finish him off. So Karl and Volkmar weren't really prepared to fight Archaon. Certainly not. His infantry would have ruined this flagellant build very, very quickly. Kholek's army not very well equipped to fight it, but I think that the Empire's learned a valuable lesson here that bringing down the Lord of the Dragon Ogres is not quite so easily done. That they'll have to come a little better prepared than this. There were no survivors. Wow, that was kind of a butt clincher. We were just up against so many unbreakable units. Killing Franz and Volkmar was easy, kind of a joke even, but were it not for the heroic antics of Appius, the Chaos Sorcerer, and Kholek, God of the Mountain, then that could have ended very differently, like it did for the other Shaggoths in Kholek's army, but they're happy to sacrifice themselves into the slaughter of their enemies. The buffs and amount of damage those flagellants were doing was somewhat suspect, but I do know that Volkmar and Karl are both capable of skill trees that can create some pretty significant buffs to those units. The good news is that Karl, and I know this is a turn-in, but I'm just explaining real quick, that Karl and his forces confederate with Nordland, so we may have a chance to kill him in a more proper setting. Now we've successfully embedded Appius into Kholek's army, and at a very opportune moment, in fact, or else that battle may not have been winnable. But then we've been asked to move a character into the Gormandy Mountains. Well, guess what? I have such a character here. Kholek is now capable of fighting the battle for Star Crusher. Now, I think we've learned an important lesson there, which is Kholek needs an army of infantry nearby, or even some rather crappy troops will have an opportunity to gang up on the relatively few numbers that he possesses. So I think that I have an idea. I would like to get it to where Kholek can recruit himself more Shaggoths, but Chaos Chariots, more specifically, because Kholek's army is all focused around Beast, I'm thinking that Gore Beast Chariots will be the perfect addition to Kholek's armies to round it off. So lots of Shaggoths, and then the Gore Beast Chariots for working infantry down. since the Shaggoths don't really excel at such a thing. We could also consider putting in a giant, like this Crush Skull foe stomper. So we will think through that. You all tell me what you think to that particular point. I'm not yet at a tier 5 encampment, though part of me kind of wants to save to do so, but we need some help in Kholek's army in the meantime, so I'm going to go ahead and work in this Unholy Furnace so that we would be able to get a hold of some chariots. And that also allows for the recruitment of Hell Cannons, which we don't have available to us just yet. Let's go Lord of the Storm. That also could have been extremely helpful in the last battle. Then you'll notice here that Lewin has strayed very near my camp with his knights. He has several units of questing knights, Grail Guardians, and peasant bowmen. We'll see who the real knights are. I may not be at war with him, but why not? Why not? Run, pathetic and supposed noble king of Bretonnia. Run for your lives. Flee before the might of Archaon. By Khorne's glory, check out this army of Chosen. Well, there's a couple of Mirror Shield wannabes here who are biding time until their lord Sigvald comes to lead them, but holy crap, this army is awesome. On the other side, Lewin's pathetic force of peasants is set to square off against me. On my left, I have Archaon Sextus, who are leading the Knights of Chaos, the Swords of Chaos. You can see them here as well as the Knights with Lances. My other flank has the Crimson Rampage, and my other 3 Chaos Knights. The Bretonnian army, just a blob of peasant archers in the middle with foot squires. There are some potent units here for Bretonnia. There are questing knights, there's a couple of paladins, and there are also some Grail Guardians, which are very tough units, but none of them particularly well suited, other than the questing knights, for taking down the kind of heavy armor that they're going to be facing here. But there are not enough questing knights to potentially give Lewin the victory that he needs here. The Bretonnians will charge valiantly, fighting for their lord, their liege, their lady, the land. But even for the lady, it won't be enough to save them from the fate that they're about to face. You can see that their middle is being overrun, and Archaon's knights, along with the reinforcing halberds here from the Sons of the Last Plague, which are almost in combat, are going to be more than enough to wreck all of these questing knights who are attempting to do some damage. When these Sons of the Last Plague get involved, large units get wrecked. Poison attacks, anti-large bonus, magical flaming attacks because of the Flaming Sword of Ruin. The cavalry is just going to melt like butter on a hot blade. Should catch some more of this. The peasant archers, their pox arrows, sitting back, attempting to cause damage. But I've now got the Knights of Chaos who have come in to help support. The Crimson Rampage is being supported by Chosen with great weapons. So despite having had to fight a Grail Guardian, they have support, and they'll be able to hack their way through it over time, despite the physical resistance that comes to these Grail Guardians. Now, the king, the peasant lord, Lewin, is running around here, trying to rally his troops to a victory, but a victory that he isn't capable of delivering at this point. The peasant king versus the Lord of the End Times, and the Lord of the End Times has been summoned. He'll be moving across the battlefield momentarily to come dispatch Lewin the peasant with the Slayer of Kings that he obtained in his quest battle. You see the knights with lances back there just absolutely ravaging through the forces of Bretonnia. Speaking of Lord of the End Times, here he is. Archaon is going to come make his presence known. I can't imagine why Lewin is fleeing right now. Folks, that's going to be it. Lewin flees, the remainder of the Bretonnians break, and are no more. Lewin falls, and our favor grows. The supposed king of Bretonnia. King of defeat, perhaps. I'm gonna move Archaon closer to Kholek so that Kholek has some cover. He in fact has plenty of movement points. Let's bring him over and encamp. And prepare to get Kholek's army up to the standard that it needs to be. Alright, it's been 2 turns actually. I was able to accomplish a couple of important things. I'm gonna move Kholek and Archaon. Kholek completed the demonic forge, so he can now recruit Gore Beast chariots, and we are indeed going to do so. As for Archaon, I will help recruit Kholek some more Dragon Ogre Shaggoths, as Kholek's growth is still a bit short of what it needs to be, as we have to have a tier 5 settlement, or horde encampment. So I'm going to go ahead and get some Gore Beast chariots into this army. I think we probably want at least 5 of them. So I will get started with that. Again, quickly running through a couple of turns so that we can get prepared for some more epic battles. Look at this.
I am the lion.
The peasant king. Lewin's back. His army crappier than ever. Meanwhile, the armies of chaos have never been more powerful. I've taken this time with Archaon to re-recruit some Shaggoths for Kholek. Is there some reason why I can't move? This is really quite irritating. Okay, can you get off my screen? Thank you. Alright. Knew something was causing it. Alright, so we're still getting some Gore Beast chariots for Kholek, but we're going to exchange some units here. I'm going to put Archaon's knight back over in his army. I've got these Dragon Ogres to go into Kholek's army. I need some Shaggoths to replace those that he had previously. What, 21 of 20? Oh, and I got him the dragon as well. Skullex the Great. So, Kholek's army will certainly be one of beastly proportion. Gore Beast chariots, Dragon Ogres, dragons. It will be quite nightmarish. For the time being, I'm going to disband the Mirror Guard, and then I'm going to take Appius back over into Archaon's army where he belongs. We probably do need a sorcerer for Kholek and his troops, and we may take care of that at some point soon. But until then, I think we're okay now to have gotten some army put back together for Kholek. His Dragon Ogre Shaggoths will come soon enough. If we head into this encampment, we can go ahead and do Ruinous Warhost, which will lower upkeep and make it possible for me to get to those Shaggoths once we've gotten some more growth. Following the turn end, I have all the Gore Beast chariots, Dragon Ogres, Skullex, and 1 Shaggoth left. Archaon's army has been returned to its proper state. And I noticed that Lewin, Alberic, and another peasant lord, or sorry, the Fey Enchantress, have all camped over here, so I have an opportunity to defeat 3 different legendary lords in a single glorious battle. So I'm going to move and attempt to engage them in combat. I'm going to move up Kholek first, and then I'm going to move Archaon into reinforcing range. I think right here should work. Hopefully they don't flee. It's quite possible they will, but since all their forces are here, I'm hoping to engage in an epic battle. Unfortunately, my movement range, it was strange. Kholek was close enough and Archaon was technically in reinforcing range, but when the battle pulled up, it said that Archaon wouldn't reinforce. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I'm going to end the turn. Maybe Bretonnia will attack us, but my guess is that they'll flee. The Bretonnian peasantry continues to hover just out of my reach. And rather than chase them, I've decided that the vampires are too haughty in their current state, and I am not happy about it. So what I'm going to do is humble, yea, maybe even humiliate the vampires here. We're going to push back the von Karsteins, and we're going to humble them in order to allow the empires of men to try and regrow, because I want a real challenge, a test of the true Everchosen, rather than these rollover, pathetic pukes who have been beaten by the undead and left in a simple husk upon the ground. So more challenge is what I want at this point, more challenge. So I am going to go after the vampires and take them down.